I don't know what is wrong with Kate. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I am Dana. That is Kate. That is Sonia. And I don't know what are you cold, Kate? Is that what happened?
I'm freezing, but I said the words Green Bay Packers and playoffs in the same sentence, and I was trying.
I know. You can't put it back in your mouth after it went out your mouth.
Exactly.
You should know better.
Like toothpaste. Haven't you seen that?
Toothpaste. I've done squeezed it out the tube.
Oh, don't say it. Don't say it.
Sorry.
That's a conversation for another day when I'm not here. That'd be great. Anyway, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Our Turf Football Podcast, as I said before. This week, we're going to have a couple of really interesting conversations. We are going to talk about the mess, the disaster. I don't want to call it a disaster. It's not really a disaster in Denver, and what's happening there with their head coach and their other coaches and their quarterback and all of the joy of that, and their owners in his very interesting press conference today. And then we are going to talk about Baker Mayfield for a minute. There's a lot of conversation about Baker Mayfield right now and about how his stock is rising very quickly within the NFL. So that's really good. And then good, bad, depends on how you view Baker, I guess. But we're going to talk about Sean Payton and all the like every team he's just going to coach the entire NFL next year. Like that's like his whole deal. So we're going to talk about Sean Payton. Then we're going to talk about the playoff scenarios at the end of the show. So we're so glad that you guys are joining us. We appreciate your time. All right. Before we get started, of course, we want to thank our sponsor, Donkey's Cheesesteaks. Now we have been torturing you guys all holiday. Look at that. Look at our swag. So we've been torturing you guys all holiday with pictures of their cheesesteaks. I will tell you, we got a little information that you could now buy their cheesesteaks on Goldbelly. And if you don't know what Goldbelly is, it is a website that basically ships restaurant and other kinds of food from all over the country to anywhere in the country. It comes in 1-day shipping. It's freeze-dried. It wasn't even, it was sort of frozen by the time. It was delicious. So I ordered it and it was so good. And we got 4 cheesesteaks. That's what the package was. And it fed 6 people because they're so big. It was huge. So we want to thank you guys. Thank Donkeys for sponsoring us, and go check them out on Goldbelly, please. And you can also buy their merch online. So please go check out Donkeys. They're all over our page. You can't really miss them. So yay, Goldbelly. I'm excited for that. It was really good, ladies. You're going to have to try it. It was worth it.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with our topics tonight. We're going to start the show talking about the Denver Broncos and everything that has happened to them basically since their complete destruction on Christmas Day from the Rams. They were beaten 51-14 by the Rams, who are basically running a scout team right now, other than Bobby Wagner. Like everyone else is 3rd, 4th, 5th stringers at this point. And they absolutely demolished the Denver Broncos. Great game out of Bobby Wagner. He got an interception and a sack on Russell Wilson, which, to be honest with you, if you know the history in Seattle, that probably felt pretty good for Bobby Wagner, to be honest with you. Because, of course, they're not allowed to touch him in Seattle. But so what happened since then? There were press conferences. There was anger. There was firing of the head coach, Nathaniel Hackett. They also fired a couple of their coordinators. They asked their defensive coordinator to become the interim head coach. He said no, thank you, because he wants to be considered for head coaching in other places and doesn't want that stain on him. So their new interim head coach is the guy that Nathaniel Hackett picked to come in and help him with clock management. So now the man who was not even on the roster, wasn't a coach as of week 4 for the Denver Broncos, is now the interim head coach, which I'm sure he'll do fine. The interesting conversation surrounding this comes from a press conference that the new owner, his last name is Penner. He is of the Walmart family. We know how much money they have and are willing to throw around. Today, he had a press conference. He said the new head coach will report directly to me. And that was very forceful and interesting. They also said that they believed in Russell Wilson. They understood that there was some issues, but they believed he could be fixed. Not a glowing endorsement, if you ask me. So what happens next in Denver? Well, they're going to finish out the season with a horrible schedule. They have to go to Kansas City. They have to play Kansas City this week. And, sometimes there is a bounce back after you have a new head coach come in and change things up a little bit. There's not that much bouncing going on in Denver, not with the amount of injuries that they have and the issues that they have going on. So I want to talk to you guys. What do you see when you look at Denver? I have some definite opinions on the new head coach, but let's just talk about what we see in Denver, the turmoil, what you think is going to be their highest priority, that sort of thing. Sonia, I want to start with you. I don't really see Denver as a destination spot for a new head coach. Do you?
I wouldn't think that it would be a destination for a first-time head coach because no, you like they say with the Grinch, you couldn't touch it with the 49.5-foot pole. Nope, not doing that. So I would say somebody who has been a head coach before, somebody who can really like bring a team together, show some leadership, show something, that, okay, this might not be as bad as we think. I mean, because Russell is Russell. And even though he had a crappy year, I still think he can be salvaged at least some, and be at least serviceable. So I think it's, I'm trying to think of somebody like who's out there who might be, this would never happen, but you need somebody kind of like a Jim Caldwell. I'm just kind of throwing that out there, somebody like that who's able to kind of restore confidence, something like that.
So his name was thrown out there today. So I had a very, I sat in a parking lot before I went into Costco for about 15 minutes to finish up listening to Sirius XM NFL that had their regular host and Robert Turbin. Now, for those of you who don't know, Robert Turbin was a running back for Seattle for years. He is, I'm assuming he still is, very good friends with Russell Wilson. So he had some really interesting insight. And his biggest takeaway, or one of many, because like I said, they talked for quite a while, was the fact that you could not put a first-time head coach in this position, as tempting as that is, and how it works for certain other teams in this team, in this division, in this level of issues. A brand new head coach just is not going to work. Kate, do you think that's a reflection on Nathaniel Hackett or just a realistic view of what's going on in Denver?
So I think you need to bring in somebody that Russell can respect, that he will listen to. Mm-hmm. And you're going to need to bring in somebody who knows people around the NFL and knows other coaches, because he's going to have to rebuild the entire staff. Mm-hmm. Like, they let everybody go. So he's going to have to start from scratch. At the same time, I was looking at the list of candidates that are being thrown around, and the
thrown's a good word, because they're just throwing names anywhere, like all over the place.
Coordinator from Philly, who's done such a great job with Jalen Hurts, and who is calling the plays, Steve Steichen. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to Steichen. I think you don't hear his name, so I don't know how to say it. He would be interesting, because I think he's done some very interesting things and some very big improvements with that offense. But I agree with Sonia. I think this is too much of a mess for a rookie head coach, for someone who has never head coached in the NFL. And I don't know that you can give life back to like a Frank Reich, who failed so terribly in Indy. I think we're going to talk about a name later that I think makes the most sense, because it's got to be somebody who's going to bring in all of the coordinators. And like I said, somebody that Russell will listen to and that he can respect, because it's an attractive job from that standpoint, right? You're not going to a team without a quarterback. You're not going to a team that's going to have to draft somebody who's been through 5 this year. You've got a solid guy at the quarterback position who still has some good years in him. So that's got to be attractive to a head coach.
I agree with that statement to a certain point. However, this particular quarterback also could be a hindrance in some, due to attitude, amount of control given, that sort of thing. And I'm not dogging Russ. It's his personality. That's who he is. We've all said that on the show all year long. It's like, yeah, he's kind of an odd little duck, but that's just who he is. And we just take him for, what he is.
Let him cook.
Right. One of the conversations that has been had quite a bit, and I think it was Josina Anderson who first put it out there, and then she deleted the tweet, which I thought was interesting, was Dan Quinn as a head coach, because that defense, as we all know, is so good, and bringing in Brian Schottenheimer as his offensive coordinator. The interesting thing, for those of you who don't know, is Dan Quinn was a defensive coordinator for Seattle. during their Super Bowl runs. And Brian Schottenheimer was already Russell Wilson's offensive coordinator for a couple years up in Seattle. So both of them have the Seattle ties. What's interesting to me is I don't know that that's where these coaches are going to want to go. Dan Quinn is a defensive-minded coach who already has a great defense, but has all this offensive struggle going on. I don't know that he will see that as very enticing. Brian Schottenheimer, I said this on Twitter and I got my head ripped off for it, but I said Russell Wilson already got Brian Schottenheimer fired once. Why would he want to go back? But they swear that Denver media is just insistent that that's not the case. Russell didn't want Schotty fired. Well, no one was fired without Russell Wilson's permission, so that's a different conversation. But apparently they still talk rather regularly. So it'll be interesting to see how happy that combination would be. The other name that I've heard a couple of times is exactly who Sonia said, was Jim Caldwell, that you could bring someone in who has a strong backbone, knows how to stand up to these, I don't want to call them egos, but personalities, and who had the Lions in the playoffs consistently for many years. Is he older? Yeah. Is he maybe out of touch? And I hate that when they say that about older coaches. Possibly, but it's definitely someone who wouldn't be rattled by a strong personality. I think that would be really interesting. One other point that they made is that and we're going to talk about Sean Payton, and Sean Payton is definitely being linked to Denver. This is not a Sean Payton type team, in my opinion. This is not what he wants. I think, to be honest with you, Sean Payton's going to end up wherever Tom Brady is, but that's an entirely, we'll have that conversation in a couple minutes. But, these are Walton deep pockets. This is Walmart money, people. They're going to be able to throw as much money as they need to get whoever they want. So if you have a coach that's just looking to cash in for a couple of years, that's where you might end up and want to be. If you're looking for a coach who can completely revamp and save a team, that might be really interesting. It's going to be that kind of in between that would be surprising. I don't know. We'll see. This is going to be the other thing that was said was that they're going to take their time, which usually means they're going to hire someone tomorrow, because normally when they're going to take their time. Oh, wait, look, we found the perfect person. But I do think that watching this situation, that first domino to fall of a head coach is going to set a tone for the next couple of years. It also will tell us if there is a chance Russell Wilson will be cut. They will take over $100 million dead cap hit, but it is possible. I don't think that's what's going to happen. It's illogical, especially without having a first-round draft pick. They don't have that opportunity to go get someone young, but it'll be interesting for sure.
Jerry Rosberg is the guy that Nathaniel Hackett hired to help him in the replay booth, and so he's going to be their interim head coach. Any chance, in your opinions, either of you ladies, that he ends up actually getting the job?
Sonia, is that a no from you?
It's a no from me, dog. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Unless he does something really good, I don't think he'd take it. I mean, he was not able to do too much. So I don't think he'll take it.
Wasn't he retired and they talked him out of retirement? He'll be like, I'm out. I'm not playing this game with you people.
And the fact
I wanted a cushy job in the booth telling you whether or not to throw the red flag. This is not what I bargained for.
Right.
Exactly. Now that Denver, I'm going to look up his name really quick. Their defensive coordinator, because I can never remember.
The one from Denver, or one of the ones that they're looking at for the spot?
No. So the Denver Broncos defensive coordinator, it's Ejiro Evero. So that is the one that they offered the interim position to, and he said, no, thank you, sir. But I'm wondering because he's obviously, look what he's done with that defense. Insanely talented young guy, right? But again, not a head coach yet, but knows the system. I'm wondering if he might have a chance there. But I just have a feeling that they're going to want to go with a name that the fans know and the fans trust, which could be their DC, because he's beloved in Denver. But a head coach that they know is strong and can do something with the team, that'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah. This is a really good point. He was so fired after game 2. Yeah, he was. Yeah. Hackett was done weeks and weeks and weeks ago without a question. So, and do I feel bad for him? Kind of. Do we all agree that he was brought in as bait for Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, the Broncos will never admit that, but we all know that's pretty much what happened. And so he was kind of doomed from the get. So I feel kind of bad for the guy. All right, let's move on. I'm sure we're going to talk about the Broncos a lot in the offseason. I promise you we will. All right, let's move on. I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about Baker Mayfield. So, Kate, I'm going to shoot this over to you because you know Baker better than any one of us here, being a Cleveland Browns fan. And what's fascinating to me is I'm reading these stories and reading these tweets that the last couple of games, Baker Mayfield's stock has started to rise some, because of the way he has played with the Rams and their fifth string offensive line and however many other players are in trouble. So, and injured, excuse me. But you know Baker the better than anyone. He was with the Browns, lost his job, went to Carolina, couldn't get that job. Now with the Rams, is this really a starting quarterback in the league?
I think he is. I think maybe it's a Cinderella situation. We talk a lot about I don't know what this noise is on my computer.
I don't either.
We talk a lot about players finding the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time we talk about it in terms of the draft, as these quarterbacks who get drafted top 5 go to really bad teams. And is it the right fit for their skill set and that kind of things? And the ones who succeed are the ones where the scouts pick the guy that fits with their system. Baker fit with our system off and on. And then the play calling got weird in Cleveland and his accuracy took a nosedive. When you're 5'4", when you're under 6 feet tall in cleats, you have to be accurate. You have to be fast. You have to make quick decisions. And he just wasn't doing that here. But I do believe he has the ability, still the talent, to be a starting quarterback in the league. This year, he went 1-6, 1-7 in Carolina, and it was abysmal. And he was getting sacked 3-4 times a game. And you could argue that he wasn't getting rid of the ball fast enough. I would argue that in Carolina, once they got rid of McCaffrey, he didn't have people that he could, throw the ball to because they were all covered. There were a lot of coverage sacks going on. And then he gets to LA and he shows up on Saturday, and they have him playing, the next day, and they get a win. And then they have that against the Raiders. And then they have that rough loss to Green Bay within that weird game where they only put up 12 and he was sacked 5 times. Mm-hmm. But this week he put up 51 on Denver. He did not get sacked the entire game. He had a quarterback rating of high for the season of 88. Over the course of the season, his quarterback rating is 12. He had some single digit QBR games in Carolina. And I think part of it with the Rams is they have nothing to lose at this point.
Nope.
They are putting together a team with baling wire and duct tape. They are out of the playoffs. Matt Stafford, no surprise to any of us, is retiring from football. Sonia called it, said his wife wasn't going to let him play again after that neck injury. And so he's retired. And I think there's a very, very good chance that the Rams keep Baker.
Did I miss that Stafford retired? I thought he said he was going to play. Did he change his mind?
I thought he retired on Friday.
Oh, so just this last couple of days, I did miss it.
Oh, okay.
Missed it in the Christmas mix.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yes.
Good, because there's no way his wife's going to let him play.
No.
There's no way. So I think if he plays well these last couple weeks, there's just something about the LA system and the way they're doing things. And they're kind of letting him, they're throwing up, they have a limited playbook for him because he's only been there a couple weeks. And I think they sat down and went through and said, okay, you're good at this, this, and this. So let's do this. I mean, he doesn't have, a full complement of anything there, from receivers to running to any of that. And they managed to put up 51 points this week. Now their defense did a lot of work on that. That defense stepped up this week. But I didn't think that he would last in Carolina. Like I thought he'd last the season, but I didn't think they'd keep him. I thought they were going to let him and Darnold battle it out, release both of them at the end of the year, and go draft them somebody and start over. And I thought LA was going to do the same thing when I heard they made the deal to get Baker. But the way he's played the last couple weeks, I think they're going to keep him. Now, they're going to have a high enough draft pick that they'll be able to get a quarterback, but maybe they'll be able to let someone sit.
Do they?
And let Baker play.
When is the Rams draft picks? I didn't think
Actually, do they even have a first round pick? Now that we've just said that, they got rid of all of them to go win the Super Bowl last year. With all those deals they made for all those guys and OBJ and everything else, I don't know that they have a first round pick.
They don't. They gave it to us.
Yeah, they gave it to the Lions. So it looks like they should have a high pick, but they're not going to.
You're right. They traded that away. I didn't know if it was lottery protected like they do in the NBA. The Texans one to the Browns. Browns and Texans ones are weird like that. Then for me, I think there's an even stronger chance that they offer Baker some kind of a contract. Not what he thinks he's, but something to hold on to him. There's not going to be a lot available in the offseason. And if he does well the next 2 weeks,
and it's not like
it won't last. I'm just, it never lasts. But he didn't look this good when he first started in Carolina. Lost his first 3 games there and just looked terrible. And I thought Carolina had a stronger team. They still had Christian McCaffrey then. They had a better team. That didn't work for him. LA works for him.
To me, though, Sonia, I don't feel like Baker is a Sean McVay quarterback, right? Like he likes him tall and lean and blonde and, that's his kind
Baker
of quarterback.
Baker is none of those
right?
3.
Right. I know. Baker is none of those 3. But maybe he stays. I just don't know. Maybe he stays as a backup. I just don't see him as their starter next year. Do you?
I don't think he'll last the whole season, but if they really don't have much going for them,
fair.
Why not? He's hanging out. He's done a decent job. And, maybe McVay and him are going to click and, really work together and he'll develop. I mean, they have Cooper Kupp, but he's injured. So, but they still might be able to make something work. And again, I don't see him being it for, I don't see him being
he's not their franchise.
But, maybe just to get him through these next couple of years with no draft picks. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, maybe.
That team, their options are.
Well, I will tell you, the Rams are going to look like a very different team next year, you guys. There's a good chance Aaron Donald retires. They're going to lose a lot of players. And like we said, they have absolutely no draft capital to trade with, to move with. It's going to be strange. It's going to be interesting. Well, I'm excited for Baker. I feel like this is a little bit of vindication for him. And because I do think that Cleveland did him dirty, but Carolina, it just did not work there.
Yeah.
But it's not, and now look, it's working okay for Carolina now. They're doing not so bad, right? They're right in the hunt for their division.
And look at what we got for doing him dirty.
I know, Kate, I know. That's a whole show in and of itself. All right. So I know. So that'll be interesting. So we'll see what we're kind of rooting for you, Baker. I only can say kinda because you're in my division, but I'm glad he landed somewhere. But Sonia, we have been talking about Sean Payton. Oh no, the entire planet has been talking about Sean Payton all day today, all day yesterday, since the minute he retired. That's all they can talk about is Sean Payton. Where's he going to go? What's he going to do? Where's he going to be? The interesting thing to me is, one, Sean Payton has said he does want to coach again in the NFL. He has made that very clear. He hasn't said when, though, but everyone's assuming he just took this year off and now he's going to come back next year. And as of today, I was looking through this right before we got on the show. There is a news story linking him to almost every single team that even has an inkling of needing a head coach next year. Ooh, Sean Payton, where's he going to be? Oh, he's going to go to the Chargers. Really? The Chargers just made it to the playoffs with Staley. It doesn't matter. They're going to get rid of him and bring in Sean Payton. Then Denver, he'll be great. Well, but he doesn't really like, bossy quarterbacks. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Then, oh no, he's going back to the Saints and he's taking Tom Brady with him. That was the greatest one I saw. Okay, well then we go. Tom Brady. Nope. He's going to go to the 49ers. Really?
Why?
They're doing just fine with their head coach. Then someone said the Panthers. They're like, oh, he'll never go to the Colts because the Colts are too big of a disaster. Okay, but he could start over with his very own quarterback, whatever he wanted there. So it has been chaos. Sonia, I need you to walk me through this, and I need to explain to me why everyone is so hell-bent on getting Sean Payton, who only won one Super Bowl, right? Like that's one.
I mean, he won one, but he always had those Saints like right there.
That's fair.
They were
true.
always in the hunt for a Super Bowl, or at least, they made the playoffs, and they were good teams. He had very good teams. And so, he's a good coach. Guys like to play for him. So, yeah. And people think that, and overall, minus the whole Bounty Gate thing, he really wasn't problematic, right?
That little thing.
Just that little blip.
Just a little smidge.
But overall, he really wasn't too problematic as a coach. But you forgot one team that I think if he comes back, he's going to the Cardinals. That's what I think. I don't know why, but I feel he's going to go to the Cardinals if he comes back. Drew Brees was short. Kyler Murray's short. Boom. Match made in heaven.
Yes, with no wide receivers other than Hopkins and JJ Watt's retiring and holes. I mean, I would love to have him in the NFC West. I think that would be hilarious. But literally, and Kate, I'm baffled. Like every single team is linked. Every single one. Do you think that he takes a job early, or do you think he's like, nope, I think I'll sit it out one more year?
Somewhere in between.
Okay.
I think his camp is the one throwing out all these teams to get all the talk going on and to get the price tag up. Because if the teams that want him think he's in demand, then that price tag just goes up. Every other team that's in the lottery to get Sean is going to have to pay a little bit more money to get him. I think the San Francisco rumor, it's only because people still want to put Tom Brady in San Francisco.
Exactly.
Just because he was born in Santa Clara doesn't mean he has to play football there.
Move on.
That's all that is. They got to throw, and there's nothing going on there. I don't understand the love and the desire for Sean Payton, because while the Saints had great teams for those years that he was there, they also had Drew Brees. And if you look at the quarterback situation, they had stability at that position. He came from the Chargers and went there and had a starting job and did a very good job. And they had good teams. And I probably could have coached them to play as well as they did. I don't know why, other than he's a name we know. He's young from coaching standards. He's still relatively in his middle years. He was hilarious in the movie The Replacements. I mean, he's got personality, so your press conferences will be fun. Like, I get it, but I just think there are other coaches out there that are willing to do the work that these teams who fired someone need a coach to do. I could see him ending up in Denver because I think the defense is handled by that coordinator, that he'll just let Russell do his thing. And it would be more of a PR move for the Denver owner to make it nice with the media and the fans than it is an actual, I need his coaching skills to do my X's and O's and get my team. Like, I just don't feel like he wants to do the work you need to do for some of these bad teams.
So one of our people in our chat, Becky, she says he wants warm weather. Someone reported he's building a house in Hawaii. So that makes you then lean a little more to the West Coast, right? So then you're like, okay, maybe it is Arizona. Here's the thing. I can probably look at all of these teams. Now, right now, we have 3 teams for sure looking for head coaches. We have Carolina, Indy, and Denver. They're the ones who are playing with interim head coaches right now. We know there will be more, right? Maybe not as many as last year. There seem to be so many, but we'll see. But what's interesting to me is that there is at each one of these teams a draw for a coach who's really looking to build a team, to work with a team, to put his stamp on a team. I get the same impression as you, Kate. I don't get that feeling from him. He's not someone who's like, I'm going to go in and mold them and put them together. He's like, and this is no shade on Sean Payton. He has put in the years of work like that. We get it. But to go from a cushy broadcasting situation back to coaching, you're not sure unless there's that competitive drive where he really wants to build a team from scratch. And if that's true, he needs to go to Indianapolis, right? He has a handful of great players, a fantastic running back. He just needs to put a quarterback in place and go from there. If he wants a team that he knows already has really good pieces and just has to tweak it a little bit, then that would be Denver or Carolina right now, right? Does he want to play for or work for the Panthers? I don't know. Do you want to be in that division? I mean, I don't know, right? It's kind of rent. So it could be interesting. But if he has a competitive edge to him at all, I can see him maybe wanting to be in Denver so he can go head to head with Herbert and Mahomes twice a year, right? Like that would be really interesting. But I just don't get that feel from him.
Yeah, because I feel like the Indy job is a 3 to 5 year commitment.
At
You're
least.
rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Denver, I could see them in the playoffs next year. With the right couple pieces, get that offense right. I think they are the closest, closer than Carolina, the closest to getting to the playoffs and making a run. They've got a culture issue and they have been mismanaged from the head coach down.
Yeah.
That if Sean could come in and straighten that up, again, leave that defense alone. It's doing just fine. Mm-hmm. Tweak a little bit on the offense, and that team is the closest to chasing a ring, because I just don't feel like he wants to do a 3 to 5 year rebuild.
I get that. I'm the same. I get that same impression. I just don't know that Sean Payton, who is kind of known as a hard ass head coach, wants to deal with the personality that the only quarterback in the league who has his own office in the upper levels, and that would be Russell Wilson. So, I mean, that's a different beast.
Unless Penner's willing to cut him. He's got money. If he's willing to cut him and let Sean, I don't know what his plan B would be for a quarterback. Let Sean bring in a quarterback. But again, then that's work.
But the conversation would have to be,
you've got to do work.
Yeah. And he would have to go in and have a very serious conversation. That would be interesting. I'm fascinated. No, it's not just because my Seahawks have the tiniest little slim chance of getting into the playoffs, which they won't. We all know that. But I'm excited for this offseason because I think there's going to be a few shakeups that are going to be really interesting. And of course, I'm very excited about the draft because it will be in Kansas City. And I want everyone to come to Kansas City. It's a great city. Ignore the Chiefs fans. It's actually, I know my house is booked. I have 3 women from across the country coming to my guest room. So, all right. But speaking of the playoffs, let's talk about the playoff situation as is right now. Okay. So the NFL emailed this to me this afternoon so I could make sure that I had it all right. All right. So far in the AFC, the teams that are clinched are the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Chargers as of last night. Congratulations, Chargers fans. The first time in quite a few years that you guys have made the playoffs, and I'm thrilled for you guys. Now, the Buffalo Bills can clinch home field advantage and the AFC's lone first round bye with a Buffalo win and a Kansas City loss. That's not going to happen, friends. Kansas City plays Denver this week. So we can just do that. It's going to take another week to decide that first round pick there. Now, the Bengals can clinch the AFC North Division with a win and a Baltimore loss. Miami can make it to the playoffs with a win and a Jets loss or tie. Lisa, if you're listening, honey, we will do our best to make that happen for you. NFC, we have clinched the Vikings, the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. Mm-hmm. And then if this was great. For the New York Giants to clinch a playoff berth, all they have to do is win. But if they lose, it's 7 different scenarios that have to happen. So the Giants
win so we don't have to do the math.
Right. And so it's the Giants win, or if they lose, it's Seattle has to lose and Washington has to tie. And this has to win and that. Or Seattle has to win, but Detroit and Green Bay have to lose. And it's like it goes on forever. So we're going to wait on that one a little bit. The Eagles, they clinched the NFC East title with a win or a Dallas loss. And then they clinch home field advantage and the first round bye in the NFC with a win. So they could lock that all down, which I think that they will. This weekend it's going to be such a good weekend for football. All right. Then Tampa Bay, with their 7-8 record, can clinch the NFC South title with a win. Lord. Okay. Washington is much like Seattle, or much like the Giants. They need Seattle to lose, Detroit to lose, Green Bay to lose, or tie. It's a whole thing, people. It goes on and on and on. But when I look at this playoffs scenario, I'm a little underwhelmed, to be honest with you. The teams that we all picked at the beginning of the year to do really well have all already clinched. And then you have these teams that are all sitting around 7, 8, 9 wins. New York, the Giants have 10 wins, fighting it out. And we talked earlier this season, you guys, about how this year in the NFL, it just seemed to be kind of middle of the road. There were a lot of kind of blah teams, and including the NFC South, which one of those teams is going to get in probably with a losing record, which has happened before. So it's not like it's the first time. I'm interested in your opinions on looking at these teams that are kind of right there. So Washington, the Jets, Giants, Seahawks that are all kind of right there. Yes, you can mention Green Bay if we must, but and then some of those other teams, Miami, with everything that's happened with Tua this week and the situation that they are in. Which ones of these teams do you think will shake out and actually end up in the playoffs? Kate, I'm going to start with you.
Giants,
Mm-hmm.
Jets, Dolphins, Packers.
I think, is there only one AFC
Giants,
spot
Packers.
left? Let's see.
Aren't there two in each still?
4, 5. There's only one spot left for the AFC. Because the Chargers clinched last
Lisa,
night.
don't kill me. I think the Jets.
Maybe.
The inconsistency
With Mike White?
That game this week with Miami. Good Lord, it was painful to watch. I don't know how Lisa did it. It was painful to watch, and I'm not even as invested in her. The consistency issues this season where they were so good and then they were so not. And then I don't know. I gotta maybe it's because of Gene Kelly and I got a little heartstring going for the Jets. One of those two for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what'd you say for the NFC? The Giants. One more in the NFC.
Packers.
Oh,
There's
vomit.
weird
Okay.
stuff going
Mute
on
her.
the
Mute
last
her.
couple weeks. I feel dirty saying it. I threw up a little in my mouth when I said the word, but I was thrilled my Browns lost this week because there were crazy people in Cleveland talking about the Browns going to the playoffs. I'm like, you need to shut up. This team is not good enough to go. If I had my way, you would need 10 wins to get in. And if there weren't enough teams with 10 wins, somebody else was going to get a bye. You need 10 wins to go to the playoffs because people going to the playoffs with under 500 records is ridiculous and shameful. And it's why this whole season has been meh. You have a whole bunch of these teams that are just meh, and they think that that's okay because they can still get into the playoffs that way. And I don't want terrible football. If you're going to play in the playoffs, I want you to be good.
So interesting. I just relooked at that. And so because Dallas has already clinched a playoff spot, or have they? Yes, they are in the playoffs. So it's just going to be one team from the NFC
Giants.
South.
Thank you,
and
Jesus.
then the Giants. Yeah. So I think it'll be the Giants too.
We'll get both New York teams. And then in an upset, the Super Bowl will be the New York Giants and the New York Jets.
Oh, no one will be able to tolerate that.
No
the
one
city will
watch.
go insane.
Sonia,
what about you?
Giants. I feel they would probably be the closer one. I gotta look at everybody's schedule, but I think the Giants are probably going to be the most likely. They have it most together, I think. Yeah, Danny Dimes has been dealing, so
He saved his job this year.
He
really did.
He really did. He stepped it up. So shout out to him. Shout out to Saquon for staying healthy. Yes. So Giants.
The Cowboys have the Titans on Thursday.
Cowboys.
So they're probably going to get a win.
Oh yeah.
Philly has New Orleans. That'll get a win.
Tampa Bay and Carolina play each other. I think that's going to be an interesting
That'll be
game.
interesting
To see it because that NFC South is still sitting out there waiting to be plucked. So that
Miami has New England, and that's even without Tom Brady. That's a tough game for them every time.
And Tua's concussed again. I don't know if they'll let him play. But.
The Giants have the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Giants are in. God, that means the rest of the season is a breeze for me.
The Jets have Seattle and Minnesota has Green Bay. So Minnesota could knock Green Bay out of the entire playoff conversation, which they would like to do.
They would love that.
Yeah.
I just don't know. They're another team with some consistency issues.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. One game I want to mention briefly is one that she just mentioned is that Seahawks Jets game. The interesting, and not just because I'm a Seahawks fan, what's interesting about it is it going to have probably the highest concentration of the best rookies playing against each other. So you're going to have Tariq Woolen and you have Sauce Gardner and you have Wilson for the Jets and you have, is it Gardner Wilson? Yeah. And you have Kenneth Walker, who is now healthy and can play and then the two offensive tackles, or two offensive linemen from Seattle they're all of these players are in the top 7 rookies right now. And so that's going to be really interesting to watch and see how they play against each other. There is already quite the little rivalry between Tariq Woolen and Sauce Gardner, which is kind of fun. And so it'll be interesting, even though they'll never be on the field at the same time. I think it'll be really interesting. So
There's talk that the Jets could have the offensive and defensive rookie of the year on that team this year.
Yeah. I don't
And how
know.
does Sauce Gardner not have a commercial deal with somebody's barbecue sauce? Like,
Oh yeah.
some
For whatever reason.
Popeyes
Donkeys,
chicken
get on
something.
it. You're
How
soft.
does he not have a deal? He
Yes.
should be doing commercials.
Talk to him.
Maybe he does in New York and we just don't get him. I don't know.
Maybe
All
in
right.
the offseason, now that they've seen he can actually play and he was worth every bit of the hype that we gave him in our draft show. Because Lisa and I both got nothing but love for even Sonia, Sonia loved the sauce.
Yeah, he was a fun interview at the draft. I'm partial to Tariq in his league leading 6 interceptions, but there's a reason why. So, but no, it's fun, and I love that. I love it when the rookies are standouts. I love it when they can shine. So it'll be fun to watch that game. If you guys are bored watching any of the game, flip over and watch those rookies. It'll be good. So, all right, everyone, that is our show for this week. We appreciate that you took the time to hang out with us and you gave us all your great comments in the comments section. Of course, we want to thank Donkeys for sponsoring us. We will be back next week. Oh my gosh, the 3rd of January of 2023. I cannot believe that this season is already that close to the playoffs. It is going to be nutty. So we hope you guys join us again. We'll be here as always right here on YouTube. Everyone have a great night.
Happy New Year.
Bye. Happy New Year, everyone.